Welcome back to Archean, episode 18 of season 1 playthrough. And let's make some more big whales. I decided, giving the size of this vehicle, just having the one wheel at each corner was really not enough. Or at least it doesn't look like enough. So I decided to double up the wheels on each corner. Mostly for aesthetics. I'm sure it'll help performance a little bit. Alright, so what I'm doing here is, so I kind of like this design, and I'm sort of like using the cube here to sort of measure out and trying to decide how far away from the edges. Here I have 3, and here it's only 2. And given the fact I have to wall this in, I want to at least leave 2 blocks around. So we're going to slice this off, and basically the goal is to replicate the pattern in the back, and then go back and then redo the front to match this pattern. I didn't want to tear apart the front part yet, because in case I kind of forget this dimension or that dimension and would lose my reference then. This way I go back here and check it, and we're 6 across. So we just kind of measure out 1.5 meters. Bring that back. Just double checking everything was fine. Now, one problem that I have with it laying on the ground like this is that if I make one of these pieces like this too deep, I won't notice it because it just goes into the ground since we're locked in. And as I said before, I think we're better off. This was raised. I'm actually going to raise it up in the next episode, so I can work underneath it a little easier, and it's probably what I should have done initially. But not a big deal, since I can just pop it off the ground and without too much problems. Now I got to mount that hinge. As I said, I could mount the hinge right on a block. I decided to offset it. If I offset it, it seemed to prop just fits if it's 6 wide. And if I didn't do that, I probably would have to make it 7 wide. And I'm going to box this in because we want this lower area to be a airtight environment. So we're going to do a little high-speed crafting. I need more hinges. Okay, so we have a little box, and once we have more hinges, we can go ahead and mount that. And so hinges, pivots, it goes pretty easy there. So something else I decided to do, I'm trying to make this thing a little more fancy. Make sure I got enough composites. I got tons of composites. So what I want to do here is I want to raise the center by one block or 1/4 meter. And we'll take that piece off and nuke that, and take this piece off, and so basically you just have this gap. It just get back up, just double checking, make sure there's no additional blocks in there. It might help it a little bit in tracking forward, and I think it adds a little bit to the look, so it's not so boxy. And we'll still have a 1 cube of empty space above it, So we do lose a little bit of space, but it should be fine. I'm grabbing a bunch of items. So this vehicle is going to be highly instrumented, and by that I mean by each underneath by each corner there'll be a density sensor, so I can know if that corner's in the water or not. I'm going to put a altimeter in each corner so I can kind of read, you know, how far above the terrain, and that does not pick up sea level. That's just between that point and the first terrain, whether it's above or below water, but that's fine for that. And part of this is used for the automatic prop deployment logic in the future. So for example, if a corner is in water and, you know, it's at least 2 meters to the bottom, then deploy the prop. If if one of those conditions is not true, raise it. So thus what should happen is, if I kind of move it towards the shore, then the front, like if I'm going forward, the front props would automatically retract, because as the terrain, as it slopes up on the beach, the height above the corner to the ground will decrease to a certain threshold, and it will bring in the prop. And that's because the prop needs a certain amount of room to operate in. But the back ones will still be deployed, so you still have some oomph to get the thing up on the shore. And then once those come up, they'll also retract. In the same way, when you go into the water, once the front ones have enough depth, they'll retract. And then, but your back wheels will still be on the ground, and then you motor it, and then once the back drops in, and you're far enough away from the shore. Now there's a scenario where if you're in water that's not too deep, in other words, you're floating just enough, but there's really not that much room to deploy the props. You're just on that threshold of that you could get stuck. And we'll just see if that happens or not. Maybe I'll just adjust the threshold for deploying the props. Now if I remove the top, I could have the propellers hinge all the way up, but I'm going to tune them for water, so in theory they won't function very well in the atmosphere. So that would mean maybe adding a fifth prop that pivots, that's above the surface, that's always above us, like an airboat. Put in the back here and just have it sitting there if it became a problem, and then I just use that to push the remaining boat into the shore or back into the water, wherever I want to do that. But we'll see if that becomes a problem or not. So here I am trying to double checking how I'm doing this and trying to have somewhat of a pattern. I have the connections on the outboard side, so we'll try to stay consistent with that. And then we'll just kind of hit the X and then go right and a little up right there. Okay. And it's actually not where I have it. I actually have it one up. So we move it up one and center, hit the X, bring it over, and there. And then we just need to drop a pivot on it. And just sort of gauging everything. Let's get rid of this rock that's sitting right here. Guess I'll crush that a little bit up. All right, so now we get this one in. As I said, I'm going to get these back ones with the current pattern and go back and redo the fronts. And we'll just have to use the X key for this and get this set up. And we're out of pivots. While that's constructing, we'll just go ahead and put that little wall area back in, and let's grovel through here, and then we remount the volume sensor. So I can put the volume sensor, now you can put it, it says it has an up arrow, but it doesn't seem to really matter. Put it flat. I'm actually going to hook into this at some point. Now it's weird, I hit scan, and once you hit scan, it seems to continuously scan all the time. And once I close it, it will just indicate airtight. So I don't need to keep pushing, you know, like every time I change something, I don't have to go push the button. It seems to have this automatic mode at this point. Once I hit the turn it on effectively, it's going to continue to scan until it becomes airtight. And then if I plug into it, I can read that information and other volume related information from it. I'm not sure if I'm going to use that information yet, but I figure I'll just at least wire it up while I'm doing it, and you'll give it a name and it'll be available. And I'm just kind of double checking. I haven't really done something like this before, so it's just always. Let's bring it up a little bit. Nope, wrong way. As you see, it could be used as if I don't change the prop size, I could use it right now for a little air movement. So that would be interesting. I didn't even think about that. I don't have to cover the top off because the sides here will contain the airtight space. So the top is just for cosmetic purposes. It's not required for making this area airtight. So I could technically have them pop up. Now we know that they don't have a lot of oomph, especially compared to the wheels. So it's not something for propulsion. But if I hit that funny spot where I'm kind of too deep for wheels but too shallow for props, I can just deploy these. Now these are opposites, so they'll have the values will be inverted from each other. Okay, so now we got that set up. We can tear this apart and redo the front, matching what we did in the back. And as this is nothing new, we'll just go ahead and redo the front here in 5x speed. Yeah, I'm hoping this is a the plan is this going to be a long-term vehicle. In other words, this vehicle is going to survive for the season, and I think it's big enough, and I'll put a lot of junk on it. Because I know from the cargo challenge, there were certain parts when I was following the coastline where I had to go potentially go into the water a little bit to get from one part of the coastline to the other. So we'll be able to handle it here. Plus, if I want to go get gold, I can just motor out to the pole out there and get some. All right, so we got 4 props with pivots and hinges on them. So this is going to be pretty cool. We just go in the water and drop these suckers down, and that should also give us better propulsion because, you know, when they got to be in the water to be useful. All right, so we gotta this front a little bit, make this a little fancier. And we'll kind of do it like that. Bring it out some arbitrary distance. And then I don't want it to match. I want it to be offset a little bit. Okay, at least for me, this is looking pretty good. All right, so we got a wheel. We got to make some more wheels. So we'll speed this up a little bit. We're just constructing wheels and admiring my work here. Dip into the water here and keep this going. So what I'll do for the wheels, they'll actually just kind of operate, each corner operate in concert. So like, you know, they'll both turn together. I'm curious, this thing has, will have issues with rolling and flipping. If that becomes a problem, I'll add ailerons to it. I'm not sure how, given all the stuff I'm putting on it, does add too much weight and it kind of slows it down a little bit. So here we're just zipping through. One more wheel to go. And let's give a little distance between each one. And yeah, right there. Yeah, I think it definitely adds something to the looks anyway. This is not unique. I know others have done these 8-wheel vehicles like this before, so sort of a little mini base here. Just double checking everything is symmetrical and nothing's kind of out of whack. Yep, that definitely adds something to the vehicle. All right, so no more wheels, so I think we're good on that. So now the next problem is I got a lot of cabling to do here. So we got to lay out, I'm trying to figure out where I put this junction, at high power junction. So we got to lay out, we need, and also need a router in here somewhere because we have 2 wheels, a prop, and then we have a hinge and a pivot. And we're going to put sensors in the corner here. So we're going to have a lot of junk piled in here. We'll work on the front first. And then, oh, I guess we'll do them all. Going through a lot of routers. Now, so all this stuff will be under this, when I cover it up, they'll be all hidden away. So a lot of this, so a little nicer. And I don't have to, you know, go flying around the drone inside the walls. because I don't think you can't place these components in the walls, only the wiring. And we need a junction for high power. Oh, speaking of junction for high power, so something I realized that if you regen does not work through a junction. For regen to charge a battery, you must directly connect the wheel directly to the battery. And in this case, I'm thinking not to bother with that, but I guess I could run them all directly to the batteries. I'll have to really think about that. Well, so my initial thought is say, well, just regen doesn't really add that much. It's probably not worth the effort. And but then now I'm thinking about it. I'm like, well, all the wires can be hidden inside here, so it's just a little more high voltage wiring. It's not a big deal, so I might as well do it. That won't happen until episode 20, I think. Okay, so now I gotta name all the wheels. So I'm just gonna name 1 and 2. So we have wheel front left 1 and wheel front left 2. I'm pretty sure I'm just gonna use wheel FL star. I don't see any reason to, at least for sending output to them. Now to read like the grip and all that, since they're really close, I'm not sure it's really, if I want to understand if that corner is lifting off the ground or not. I guess I could check both of them. So if they're both off the ground, then obviously they're off the ground. One's off the ground, the other one's on the ground, then you just assume they're both on for that. So there's a lot of named components. So we have 8 wheels that are named, the props are named, the pivots on the props are named, the hinge on the prop is named. I'm going to have a density sensor in each corner, so that's 4 more, and then going to have altimeters in each corner, that's 4 more of those. Plus we'll have an ore scanner and terrain scanner and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The goal is I'll have a lot of stuff in here and named, and I'll just sort of implement it over time. I don't need to sit there and code it all up once I have it in there. So what I'll believe I do is I'll just do a initial test of wiring before I close it all up. So I'll just set up a computer temporarily and go through and just make sure the wheels will steer, that they have power, so they go forward. I'll raise it up so it doesn't go anywhere. Make sure the props spin, make sure they rotate, and everything sort of works. And then once I have all the wiring sort of verified and everything's named, I'll just close it up. And at that point, I should have an airtight lower hull environment. All right, so now the thing I gotta do is I gotta put bridges in this, because we have pivoting components, and I want to control the wiring so the wiring doesn't get. You can plug, like right from the router directly into that pivot piece, but then the wiring is kind of funky, so I'm just going to put bridges in here, so at least I can contain the wiring that twins around to a certain area. So we have power and data for the prop, and we have low power and data for the pivot. The hinge is directly connected to the chassis of the vehicle, so we don't need a bridge for that. And as before, with bridges, you have to name the bridge itself, not necessarily the component. If you don't name the bridge, it won't find it. So we'll just replicate this on this side, and let's just speed this up. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to put the 4 bridges on each one. I'm going to connect them, at least from the bridge to the component. Then go back and name all the bridges. And I think I go in and name the hinge while I'm at it. So we connect all those up. Now we're gonna name everything. So we named the prop, prop front right. We named the pivot, prop pivot front right, and then the hinge, prop hinge front right, and then of course replicate that pattern through the rest of them. Yep, I don't think I want to rebuild this thing again. And now we gotta make this is gonna be for mining, so we gotta make a spot for the drill and the anchor. The anchor on the back is the temporary anchor. I want to basically create a little I guess hole in the middle, a well in the middle that I'll have the drill and the anchor. Now, because in the center is raised up one block, but the wheels are lowered, but the wheels are also up by one block. So compared to the my initial mining vehicle, the relative distance between the mining drill and the ground doesn't change. And then let's figure out how. We got extra drills somewhere. We got drills everywhere. There's two of them right there. I was looking for an anchor. I think I have an anchor way on the this. I think the my quote-unquote submarine has an anchor somewhere over there. We'll just make another one. And to the water we go. Okay, now we got an anchor. Actually, it turned out I put it a little too low. I got to raise it up later, but I figured that out later on. Not this episode, a future episode. So I actually recorded 2 episodes, and now I'm catching up on the voiceover right now. So this is 18. I have 19 recorded. It's like I played the game more than once, because you do the thing, record it, and then go back and voice over and speed up sections of it and critique myself. Trying to figure out where to put the drill here. And that's that little piece I'll delete for placement purposes. Yeah, it's too close. And our little throwaway piece, and that should be, that's good there. And I also put a little wall around that, so I'm not going to put a top on the drill. I'm just going to put a wall around it so we can isolate that section from the airtight lower hull area. Kind of seeing what to do next here. And it's starting to look like something. And we're going to name everything. I think pretty much everything gets named. I don't believe I'm going to use numeric ports for anything. Yeah, it makes everything a little easier. I don't want to name that. We only need one drill. Looking at what I'm going to need here. I'm going to need at some point. We need, I'm not trying to end up with 2 speeds, so I'm sure we only need 1 tilt. Computer, not yet. Yeah, we'll muck with ailerons unless it becomes an issue. Let's go over here and see what we got in this pile. Yeah, at some point I got to pull these batteries, wait till they get fully charged. It's not like a big deal. I mean, I can mount them on the the new vehicle and just hook them up and have the charge continuing. So nothing's in there, so we can steal that container. And of course we steal all these. I made some of those, but I have a whole bunch here. So that cable will go away. And another mini router. So some of the stuff I made that I already had over here, so I probably should have groveled a little bit. You can pull that one off. Grab the toggle switches. Yeah. The reason why it kind of goes up and down because the batteries are all hooked up together. So when it charges one up a little bit, it's now higher than the other ones, and the power goes to the other ones. So it keeps kind of shuffling the energy around. Airtight invalid volume. It should not be saying airtight. I'll follow that as a bug. Alright, so we're about done with this episode. We are making progress on our vehicle here. Trying to do this in chunks. And yeah, it's a lot going into this thing. I'll back up for our thumbnail shot here. That looks pretty cool. Until next time, see ya.